Calling any game on Roblox the best, no matter which one, is always a surefire way to secure death threats on your email. But then, the question must be asked, what game is the best? I don't know, I just like Block Tales. Originally released in 2024, Block Tales is an RPG that takes way too much inspiration from Paper Mario, and I wholeheartedly stand by the fact that it is probably the most complete video game experience on the platform, with the runtime of its current 5 chapters setting you back around 20 hours. And as somebody who is personally a huge fan of the game and is tired of waiting for these guys to make more stuff for me to do, I just decided my best to 100% all achievements in the game, which I thought would be easy considering the fact I had clocked in my fair few hours into being a chef. So, without further ado, I'll take you through the story of this game and how I went about getting pretty much everything done in it. Firstly, the game starts with you listening to the news, telling you to head over to a Roblox convention where Dave Bazooki will probably be talking about another way to steal my data. On our way there, we get stopped by these 2 penguins, one of which mentions their great Uncle Terry. I'm absolutely positive he will have no effect on the story and you can absolutely forget about him. Eventually, we head inside and skip way too much dialogue for my dyslexia to handle before it is finally revealed that he's been working on something called the Retro Toolkit. It'll allow users to create a legacy profile fitted with some more reliable modern features. What that means, I have literally no idea. Immediately after this revelation, though, the grand antagonist of our forthcoming adventure reveals themselves. Mysterious figure. And before you ask, no, we don't know their name. Dave gets captured, and this guy gets his shit rocked. This prompts a presumably dementia-riddled penguin to call us bruh and beat the guys on stage. This is when we're first introduced to what Block Tales is going to be all about. A simple-to-understand turn-based combat system. If I want to maximize the damage my weapon does, then I have to succeed with a simple minigame, and if I want to dodge or parry any incoming attack, I would have to press space at the right time. This sounds extremely easy, but I assure you, you will see how badly I can get fucked in a minute. So we beat those guys, the evilest one says that they're gonna make right what always should have been remembered. An elderly penguin tells us to throw the ball at the device, which sends us back in time, beginning the prologue. There, our antagonists meet Noobador, and he offers his Legion of Noobs to help in return for some money. And finally, we start the actual game. We wake up in Terry's bed and tell him he needs to die, and he responds by getting us the price to pay achievement. So this time we tell him we slept well and he kicks us out. We head over to Roblox HQ and fight some little noobs along the way before we finally find Shidletsky. Shiletsky? Ah, whatever, I don't care. Getting packed up by 2 toddlers. We intervene and are introduced to the first real boss fight of the game, which is just us beating the brakes off children till they run away. We chat with the guy after that, where he tells us Builderman and a sword called Illumina has been stolen, with the only chance of saving it being to gain the power of the Ice Dagger and the other swords like it. He also gives us a wooden sword that helps us progress into an area called the Meadows. Now, you see, this place is very, very important, because it is the only place where you can get one of the best achievements in this game. King of the Sea! It's pretty simple on paper. You just have to catch all 10 varieties of fish. You see, though, the problem is that one of these fish has a 1 in 400 chance of ever being caught. I sat there for 45 minutes playing the same minigame in intervals of 10 before having to go back and meticulously sell everything I caught, then repurchase all the worms to do it all over again. Eventually, though, I felt bad about making my friend just wander around doing nothing, so I got off it and went to continue the story with him, which sees us get ambushed by Red and Blue, this time accompanied by Noobador, which was surely going to pose a challenge never seen before. Yeah, no, we beat the shit out of those kids again. And Noobador? He wasn't in great shape either. After that, we end up in a cave, use our ball to collect a card that gives us extra HP, enter a new icy cave, and right before leaving that one, we get ambushed by another boss, this time mosquito lady. Yeah. We beat it! And end up in Road Town, the place that will end up holding the Ice Dagger. Before that, though, I took a break from the game, and do you remember that friend that's just been fighting alongside me? That's my friend Zany. This challenge took me so long that he got a girlfriend. Safe to say he will not be joining me for the rest of this challenge. Anyway, I ended up going back to do the fishing minigame again to catch that fucking whale that I hate. Oh. Fuck. I'm free. After that, I went back to continue the main story, which sees us talk to the mayor about getting an adventurer's ID, and where he also asks if we could look out for his accountant along the way. We go on ahead and beat up some defenseless animals before I realize something quite imperative. There are a series of achievements in this game dedicated to being able to beat all the bosses in every chapter with hard mode on, which was something I had obviously not been doing, meaning that if I want to get all the achievements later, I would have to replay this entire chapter with the new difficulty setting on. Anyway, hard mode being turned on changed some things. The positives were that I'd get an extra 50% experience from battles. The negatives were that I'd take double the damage from all attacks and that my dodge window was cut in half. And listen, the damage part was bad enough, but now the new dodge window had just destroyed 2 years of muscle memory. So nearly every encounter from here on out, I genuinely began playing like I did not have opposable thumbs. I mean, I was getting fucking dogged on by even the easiest enemies in the game. But after a while, I found the mayor's accountant in front of some dynamite that I used to get him out of some rubble. I then used that dynamite to blow some more stuff up and make my way inside the castle of a man known as the Cruel King, who is the holder of the ice dagger. I make my way inside, solve a simple puzzle, but not before blowing up this guy and getting the achievement Hot Seat. I explore some more, getting into a pretty easy boss fight with a sentient statue and deciding to take some detours after reaching the next checkpoint. First, there was the achievement Buyer's Remorse, which was about going to the library to respec your stats, and then I took way too long to eventually find this balloon guy. I'm so, dead to— Oh! Found you. I let his balloons go, getting me the Free Balloons Day achievement. With those out of the way, I returned back to the castle and gained another key and crossed paths with a wizard. We fuck up his potion and turn his office into that one scene from the back rooms before scaling it and unlocking the ability to shrink ourselves. Also, for some reason, Terry decided to blow up the wizard, so yeah. Anyway, we shrink to get to the last key, finally confronting the final boss of this chapter, the Cruel King. And oh my god, I was getting my ass handed to me by this guy. And listen, not to make excuses, but it was mostly because I did not know how to block super well. At all. Also, he had 2 different attacks that would freeze my character, meaning that if I didn't block the freeze attack that did 50% of my HP, I would not be able to block the next 2 attacks that do 200% of my remaining HP. See the problem? So I lost. Again and again and again. And it took me 8 tries to get down all the dodge timings needed to finally beat this guy, getting me the achievement Dethroned. Later, the guy turns into a pile of snow and gives us the ice dagger, which I genuinely believe is the best item in this whole game, and you'll see why in a minute. In the meantime, though, the bad guys organize the return of a troublesome son of one of the sword holders, while Shaletsky explains how using the ice dagger works and our new mission, that being to gain the sword known as the Venom Shank. We use a jet to land there and defeat some guys, even shrink to fit in an anthill, before finally finding Mayor Thaniel, the former holder of the Venom Shank, being kidnapped by his son Brad and a gorilla. The gorilla part's never really explained. Anyway, they drop some keys and we have to do this silly minigame that'll come up later so that we can follow them. I catch up to them where Brad confronts his daddy issues and builds a wall somehow to stop you from following him. I use dynamite to blow it up just for a boss fight with a fucking Komodo dragon. One, by the way, that had more HP than me. After beating them, they give us rocket boots and oh my god, this sounds fucking ridiculous. Just go with it. Anyway, we meet up with them again and I really do my best to read his dialogue, but oh my god, I can barely read normally, let alone with all this shit in the way. We beat him, he runs away, and then we stumble upon our next achievement, which essentially is just taking a bunch of damage till I'm 1 HP, then repeating this fight with a frog until it's carrying an item that can kill me, in this case a bomb. After about 5 or so minutes, I finally found one with a bomb. And boom! Achievement complete. Pun intended, you get it? Yeah. This is awkward. Anyway, we head up a little further and fight Bigfoot. Okay, as poorly of a job that I know I'm doing at explaining the story of this game, this chapter genuinely makes no sense in terms of the bosses. So we beat them, they drop a new sword that does extra damage, and we climb a long tower to the We climbed this dumbass tower to get to the final boss of this chapter. There, we were forced to fight a juiced up Brad that has the Venom Shank, and more scarily, Monkey. And it was also in this fight that the double damage really began to be noticeable. This fight also had me on the ropes, so much so that it even prompted me to use my oh-so-precious whale to just win. But then, the fight does not end there, as Brad begins seeing visions like the Cruel King did, and decides to stab himself with the sword, turning himself into a plant monster. I can't lie, he looked pretty cool. But what wasn't cool was how many times I got the absolute brakes beaten off me. Alas, I had a trick up my sleeve, as after beating him the first time, I now had a new trick up my Why did I write that twice? I now had Monkey, okay? That was it. And oh my god, he was a total game changer, tanking hits for me and piercing his high defense. Together, he fell to our might on my 5th attempt, but we don't talk about that. Anyway, we leave the mayor to mourn his newly monstrous son. Mysterious figure sets up a plan to sabotage the railway, and Shadletsky tells us to go to Telemon's Manor to get the Ghost Walker, the third sword to our collection. But before I did that, I decided to do a little detour. You see, unless I am misremembering, when I played Block Tales a year or something ago, the way you would unlock the Cruel King as a companion was by beating him in your own head a couple of times. So I took the liberty of beating him 5 times. Even doing so without taking damage. Fuck, I took damage in real life. Even doing so without taking damage, getting me the flawless achievement. But after my final attempt, I gave up and searched up what was wrong, just to find out they changed it. I also tried beating Brad again for some reason. This isn't even how you get him on your team. Monkey! No! So I then went to where you actually go to get the king on your team, and here you have to fight an amped up version of the boss, and oh my god! Even with the fact that I could turn off hard mode to beat him, he was still whooping my ass. I tried for over an hour, taking breaks to buy new cards, items, anything, and it didn't work. So after a while, I decided to cut the unsolicited BDSM session short and go get elsewhere. I then went to the arcade to get the Good Noodle achievement, where you have to beat some kid's high score on the Jeep game from earlier. What was his high score? I never got to know, since I had apparently beat it on the first try. After that, I then went to beat a secret boss in Chapter 2 for the alternate reality achievement. Then I quickly realized dealing 2 damage per once in a while was not gonna cut it, so I paid a whopping 300 ticks to get a slingshot, which would become my weapon for the remainder of the game, seeing as it did better damage than the sword and could hit flying troops. With the slingshot, I took out the boss pretty easily and finally got to move on to Chapter 3, where we get on a train and wow, what a surprise. We beat up some bandits while making our way to the head of the train, where the conductor is revealed to be Nubador, being protected by Red and Blue. We join forces with them and fight off an incoming wave of bandits. After beating them though, Purple and Green knock the shit out of Nubador and announce themselves as the parents of Red and Blue. And listen, I'm fine with criminal parents, but abusive is where I cross the line, so we defeat them very easily. Actually, I think this has gotta be the easiest a boss fight's ever been. Anywho, Nubador knocks them out and is revealed to be Red and Blue's uncle. He thanks us and we were dropped off in front of Telemon's Manor. Oh, and Red and Blue give us the ability to call for their help in fights, which will be a huge help later on. We run into some undead foes before making our way inside, where a butler shows us around, even letting me meet a vendor called Banished Knight. You wanna know what's so interesting about the Banished Knight? He also sells the slingshot for half the price I already paid! Anyway, the butler finishes the tour, and inside the kitchen of the place is where we find the wizard Terry blew up earlier. He tells me to go to the basement and get him his turkey. Little did I know his turkey was going to blow my shit smooth off. We bring him back his turkey, and in return he makes us something called a ghost potion, which allows us to pass through objects. We use it to get by a gate, and then, is that Jason Voorhees? I genuinely have no clue what is with these filler boss fights being the most random bullshit ever, but I digress. After we beat him, we continue to snoop around the basement before finally finding the Ghost Walker. And you know what? It's easy. All we have to do is not touch it and everything will be fine. My footage cut out before we get taken to a scary place where we're forced to confront our own mind. Oh, and Builderman is here too, I guess. I first made my way through a maze where every few seconds a hand tries to grab me. After a while, I made my way to its end where a bunch of cash and the toolkit back home was. But it was all a trap to make us fight our own feelings of greed. And honestly, yeah, this guy got packed up immediately. Next, we did a simple memory game before fighting our feelings of solitude, which was also a very simple boss fight. Then we travel in the opposite direction the game tells us to so that we can confront our feelings of fear. And yeah, this wasn't as simple, but we make it through relatively fine, only for older man to reveal he's secretly been our feelings of hate this entire time. We fight our way through this corrupted otherworld before confronting them. And yeah, this boss beat my ass! I couldn't call in the help of any friend during this fight because every few turns they'd use an attack that did 100 damage, so it'd be a waste of a turn. Additionally, the attacks were just hard, man. They did stupid damage and were insane to dodge the first few times around. It took me a solid 20 minutes to take him down, netting me all the achievements for Chapter 3 in the process. Finally then, we take the Ghost Walker and mosey back to Blitzville whilst mysterious bad guys discuss how they intend on sabotaging us when we go for the Windwalker. And let me tell you, going into Chapter 4, I was tired. Mentally and physically, I had checked out. If you ever feel like a chud, just know I was a grown-ass man clocking into Roblox like it was a full-time job. The effects that this had on my health were nothing short of disastrous. Alas, I must persevere for my 3 viewers. You too can be unemployed. Anyway, I don't think I recorded it, but Shaletsky wanted us to take a boat to get on a boat, on the... What the fuck? Anyway, I don't think I recorded it, but Shaletsky wanted us to get on a boat to get on the island that held our next sword, the Firebrand. Before I did anything new though, I decided to rally up my newfound companions and better stats to the Cruel King's castle to try and finally beat the guy. I also would like to mention that whenever you use the ice dagger in this fight, it would heal him instead. I knew this and still used it twice. Also, fun fact, this is the only boss fight where when the character is supposed to die, they instead become invincible for 3 turns. I can assure you, I've found quite disappointing and frustrating at times. 7 attempts later, and this guy's finally down for the count. He gives us some long monologue about his life being king and whatever, I don't care. He gives us his calling card and we get the achievement, yippee! After that is complete, we begin marching across the deserts of Chapter 4, avoiding as many fights as my sanity could handle. We eventually make our way into the temple, doing some pretty elementary puzzles, if I do say so myself. What? Whoa, what the fuck? After some walking around, we find a genie. He asks us what our first wish should be, but suddenly the guy's got performance issues. He tells us to wish for something smaller first as a warm-up, at which point we wish for the bottle in the ship, otherwise known as his house. Yeah, he wasn't too happy with us. We beat him and unlock the boat, and do a bit of sailing before finding a band of pirates discussing starting up a mutiny against their captain. They get chump-checked by us, and we go to meet the head of the crew, Captain Trotter, and his right-hand woman, Calypso. It's explained to us that they're going into the temple that holds the sword, but don't really care about it, wanting the money instead. But before we could continue with that, I had some very important business to do, that being curing Brad. I used the boat to find the recipe with his cure, create it, feed it to him, and voila! We have unlocked now what is easily the best ally to use in fights. I also had to stand here for a while and hear all the sounds the speaker can make to get the Noisemaker achievement. Then, after that, I met up with a vampire and ate some garlic in front of it to get the So It's True achievement. But after all those detours were said and done, I went back to continue with Chapter 4, which saw me doing some simple puzzles. One of them took me 20 minutes, but we don't talk about it. When we finish the last one, the pirates get jealous about how much their captain likes us and decides to fight us, but I was not about to catch all that smoke, so I called in Brad to take most of it for me. Calypso breaks it up and we finally make it inside. We do a few more puzzles before crossing paths with the genie yet again, this time wishing for the shovel he's made his new home, which he begrudgingly gives us and lets us progress even further into the temple. We eventually meet up with Trotter and his crew, where they cite that it's too dangerous to continue exploring and says that they will have to turn back. Yeah, so that doesn't happen. What is this? I have no idea, but it did take me a solid 20 minutes to beat due to its defense stat being pretty rough on my slingshot. When we land, Trotter appears fine, but needs a moment to rest, while the rest of his crew... yeah, we're gonna have to lay it to him gently. We try to look for survivors, but turn up empty-handed, devastating Trotter when he eventually turns up to the scene, telling us we need to leave immediately. We make it through even more puzzles and climb our way to the top of this random tower before finally being met with the Firebrand. Trotter begins mourning his dead crew, saying he wishes he could share the riches around him with them. My fat shut self, on the other hand, tries to take the sword, but he stops us, saying the sword has been the source of all the pain the journey has caused, and to try and wield it after all it's done is crazy. But low-key, we still need to bring it back, so... Holy shit, this guy filled me up with lead! On the 4th time around, I finally beat him, and it's after this that he is thrown into the lava by Calypso. A harrowing moment as we have to grapple with what she has just done. Okay, after I pay my internet bill, I can come back and now he's God. Can't help but feel like I missed a few things here, but yeah, we can roll with it. Also, this fight was making me take damage in real life. I mean, holy shit! It took me nearly an hour to beat him. Or should I say the Cruel King? Because I had died, but he had clutched up, and I guess the game just let it slide. Anywho, we pick up the firebrand and skedaddle back to the desert because this guy is here for some reason. Finn McCool is just some random boss that appears at some point. Apparently, he was supposed to be a boss for one of the future chapters, but ended up here anyway. And I wholeheartedly believe that this random dude is the hardest boss in this game. Not because he himself is that difficult. His attacks are pretty easy to dodge, and you don't even fight him with hard mode on to get the achievement, so his damage should essentially be halved. That's what I think if he wasn't designed with the express purpose of rearranging my guts. No words can describe the genuine horror I felt when I saw a whole frat party of people with guns show up to the scene. Also, Finn's attacks, when landed, apply a debuff that makes half my turns get automatically skipped. So if I ever get hit at any point, my damage gets pretty much cut in half for the rest of the fight. That being said, I'm unemployed, so 30 minutes later, I secured the victory. From here though, I decided to start chapter 5, the quest for the Windwalker. We took a helicopter to a place called Trinity, and here's where I began attempting to get the achievement known as What Are the Odds, which its description cited 1 in 100. Thus, I took it upon myself to sit here rolling this wheel for quite a while. How long, you may ask? Only an hour and 30 minutes? I rolled this fucking wheel over and over for an hour and 30 minutes! By the way, I did the math. It took me roughly 3 seconds to spin the wheel, meaning I had spun it nearly 2,000 times! Safe to say, I started to feel like a goose on the loose. And you know, I searched it up, okay? I just had to see it, you know? If anyone had ever wanted this wheel. It's all a lie. The wheel. It means nothing. It literally has nothing to do with this achievement. You just go to some random camel salesman in chapter 4. That's how you get it. Anyway, I make my way through the outskirts of Trinity, eventually meeting someone named the Magnificent, who does their best to put us through our paces. After we are deemed worthy, they give us a paintball gun that we use on some puzzles that get us into Trinity, just in time to understand what's happening since I don't know if I've explained it well. This is Cassie, and she's being crowned as the next wielder of the Windwalker, the 5th sword we need to collect. Anyway, the 3 members of her royal court squabble for a bit before deciding she is deserving of it, only for her to immediately try to give it to us. Obviously, people aren't very happy, considering the fact that if they can't see the other 4 swords on my person, that must mean I've shoved them up my ass, and they only have 1, so there's a bit of a power imbalance at play. Anyway, leaders of the Wind Haters show up and goddamn! Anyway, it's my job to come and protect her, but I have to say, fatigue was really starting to settle in at this point. Oh my god, I'm an idiot. After clearing up the riffraff, we see 2 of the court members and Telamon giving this guy the mojito treatment before he flies away, promising revenge. The council says Cassie low-key got dogged and shouldn't fight, entrusting me to make sure she stays in the castle. We promptly leave the castle, beating more evildoers and rescuing civilians too. But then the guards also started attacking us because we had, as priorly mentioned, left the castle. Or that's what I think. To be honest, I skipped this dialogue so fast it's not even funny. Anyway, when fighting these guys, Cassie refuses to deal any actual damage and will only buff us, which isn't great when they're only targeting me. After that, we paint another puzzle, get through some more guards, and find Telamon, who tells us to go find Reginald, one of the court members, as he's been captured. But when we arrive there, he seems to have handled everything just fine, except for the fact that he's completely pissed that we, you guessed it, left the castle, believing that we're a traitor out to hurt Cassie. Yet unfortunately for him, no amount of absolutely bullshit damage could waver my indomitable desire to burn this game in hell. Beating him results in him running away and dropping off one of the keys required to enter the chamber that holds the Windwalker. Telamon's lying ass walks in and says that we must have made a stellar impression for him to have given us this before leaving and making us find the second royal court member, who has us do a trial where we say some stuff to prove that we're innocent. And the last member makes us use a telescope to speak with star signs so that we can get answers to her puzzles. Why? I stopped asking questions at hour 10. But before we could finally even see the Windwalker, we had to fight all 3 of these guys at once. And oh my god, these guys were like the fucking Avengers, bro. Forget the Fantastic Four, I had the Terrific 3 whooping my ass. It took me a solid 30 minutes to get catch a break from these guys and finally meet up with Cassie inside. Telamon appears at the exact same time we do, joining us in warning her about the dangers of the visions she's seeing. Unfortunately, Telamon gets turned into a demo for a new Angry Bird. But thankfully, unlike literally every other sword user to this point, Cassie doesn't lose her mind and locks in, helping us fight the big bad. Which, I know I say this a lot, but I mean it when I say it this time. This is easily the hardest the game gets. I can look at this fight now, retrospectively, and see how easily choreographed all the attacks are, but holy shit! If you mess up once, you're done! Like, seriously? 32 damage? This fight applies so many debuffs to you that it's nearly impossible to fight him on your own merit, making the best choice often to just buff Cassie to take him on herself while you try your best to survive. This took me the best part of an hour to complete, but once it was done, it meant I had wrapped up all the achievements related to the campaign, even getting the Proof of a Hero achievement for evacuating everyone. Now all that was left to do was get the final few stragglers. For this achievement, I invested easily over 1,000 ticks into it and got nothing out of it. And to be honest, my trauma with it was making it hard to revisit, so I decided to tackle another one called Unexpected Encounter, which was about beating a side boss. Sounds simple till you realize that he has 100 HP, a move that insta-kills, every attack deals confusion, and gives it back up to a quarter of its HP. Then you learn you can turn off hard mode and it's easy again. You genuinely don't understand how much playing on hard mode prepped me for this. On my first attempt, I beat what is commonly considered the hardest boss in the game. One that took me 2 hours to beat on my own personal save, and that was with a team. So is that it? Well, no. You remember those puzzles with the paint and stuff? Yeah, there's an achievement dedicated to drawing the Mona Lisa, and honestly, I had a lot of fun doing this. Although I will say there being 8 shades of brown was for sure throwing me off. Now, is that it? For me? Yes, sir! Any achievements I missed, to be honest, I really could not be asked to do, or just couldn't. I literally have no friends to play this game with right now, so resurrecting someone would be impossible, and there is no enjoyment in seeing me pull up a walkthrough on how to collect every card or bucks in the game. So did I 100% block tails? Bitch, I barely 50%ed that shit. But in my heart, I did. And I'm not suffering through another playthrough just to get some stragglers. I'm sorry, I genuinely refuse to clock in a Roblox like a 9 to 5 anymore. Bye!